and thank you everybody for joining us here tonight. So with that, I'm going to, so we're going to help facilitate this productive, get us receiving productive comments on the proposed approach. We did put 5 questions at the end of the technical memorandum to help kind of guide you all in terms of how you could make comments. Now, you can, of course, make a comment that falls outside of these 5 questions, but this is going to help lead us through our discussion today.
Yes. It seems we've got several hands, Dr. Hanley. The first hand being Cameron Kuta.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Hi, Cameron.
Great. So I don't think there's any lines of evidence that need to be explained more clearly. I understand very clearly what DTSC is proposing here. It's a complete reversal of...
Okay, thank you. We want you to be able to have your voices heard.
We've got a question from a Hakon Williams. We've got several hands. Hakon's first.
No, there shouldn't be any more lines of evidence added. DTSC needs to stick with the AOC and abandon the whole line.
All right, thank you for that. Do we have anybody else who's got their hand raised, Reiko?
Yes, we have Daniel.
So there are several of these lines of evidence that I believe should be removed. The first is 1A. You said that the DTSC background study was a robust study, but 1A is to not clean up things that are above the level set by DTSC as local background. There was a statistical test that DTSC used called USL 95, which is the least protective standard. And so the numbers that were already set were already inflated. One should not then break the commitment to clean up to background with 1A. 1B, the MRL, was also used by DTSC in setting the lookup table values. It's already been determined. The labs have already said that they could meet those limits. You already determined it. So now trying to come in with weaker MRLs, ones that are what you call reliably achievable, meaning the least sensitive techniques available, is simply again designed to try to get the polluters to not have to clean up. Line 2 is the concentration below a health protective screening level using residential land use. You say over and over again that this is not a risk-based cleanup, but indeed you are using risk to override anything above background. And you falsely claimed that the standard that you are using is residential unrestricted. If you actually look carefully at the tables in your technical report, it makes clear that you are using residential levels that are orders of magnitude weaker than the true residential land use risk-based standards that are unrestricted, orders of magnitude. And DTSC itself in writing said years ago that if you cleaned up to a rural residential standard as required by its procedures, that was equivalent to background. So 2 should be dumped as well. 3, this cumulative risk, you claim you're not doing risk, but here you're doing risk. And 4, you again looking at risk, claiming risk, again using the standards that you claim are residential but are not, and that would allow thousands of times more contamination to be left behind than the deal you signed, you wrote, the background study you did. And I'm just always amazed that DTSC tells us now to trust its technical confidence and its honesty when it attacks the AOC that it wrote and signed, the background study that it performed, the MRL study.
All right, thank you, Mr. Hirsch. I think you replied to the question, and so I'm sorry to mute you.
Yep.
Star 6.
Unmute. All right.
Yep.
In response to this question number 4, yeah, all of the lines should be weighted 0, and DTSC should follow the AOC cleanup to back.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Williams.
Cameron Kuta. Cameron.
I think line 1A should probably be way more powerful than the other lines. And I also think that it should be modified so that the measured concentration is being compared to the lookup table values rather than to the maximum.
Sorry, I was a little fast on my mute button, I will say. That would be that would be not using any lines of evidence if we were comparing it to the lookup table. I will go ahead and take you off mute.
Well, I don't understand why it can't be the lookup table values, because that was what has been in use, and we know that it works.
Well, I think that I don't want to get into a debate.
Thank you again, Dr. Hanley. Thank you, thank you. We now will take more questions and comments. Again, each participant will have 2 minutes allotted per question or comment. Daniel Hirsch.
This evening has been an embarrassment. You say that you were soliciting public comment on your proposal, and every time someone tried to comment on it, or almost every time you cut them off. Essentially, every claim that DTSC has made is false. It claims the false positive rate for its own background measurements would be 54%, but you've just admitted that there's nothing in the AOC that says you're supposed to count a non-detect as a detect. The true false positive rate would be a few percent. And what you're now proposing would create astronomical false negatives, soil that's not cleaned up even though contaminated. You claim that your MLE approach is viewed by EPA as best practice, but in fact, EPA cleans up sites to individual numeric cleanup standards, remediation goals, just like the lookup table has. And DTSC has pointed to no EPA soil standards, anything like DTSC's MLE approach. You claim not to.
Thank you, Mr. Hirsch. We're going to go
cannot be
to the
2
next
minutes.
person. We're going to go to the next person. Jenny, go ahead.
I just recorded Daniel Hirsch's comments, and they ran, I believe, 47 seconds. So I'm looking at a screen that said he should have been given 2 minutes. My biggest concern is that this meeting, like your other meetings, are being used as a metric, that you are going to report to the Board of Environmental Safety, and you're going to report to our electeds on legislative panels that oversee DTSC funding as having conducted sessions to gather public comment. But what we just have been experiencing tonight is like nothing I've ever experienced. You actually only are interested in the comments from the DOE apologists and the polluter responsible party supporters. Those are the comments that you are not cutting off. And the most informed comments from the analysts, and we know that you know who they are the people who aren't being allowed to express for everyone to hear what they understand in the numbers. And that is incredibly concerning. And what we expect as community members, people who live around the site, is that the AOCs are implemented and executed. We hear that you are saying that they are not implementable. And unfortunately, because of your track record, we actually don't believe you. And we have independent scientists who are fact checking you and pointing out the falsehoods and how
Jenny, you've reached your 2 minutes. Yep, we've got NASA.
I'm just really a little heartbroken watching this presentation today. People are obviously scared and hurt and speaking from the heart. And this presentation makes it look like the state does not want to stand by their commitment to clean up this very contaminated site that is leading to people getting cancer. That's a really bad look for the state of California. And I don't think the state should be going back on what they committed to. I think they should commit to the original agreement, clean up to background levels, and I just don't think it's right to treat people the way that they've been treated here today. Everybody is giving up 2 hours out of their evening to try to